Why do some people seem so much happier than others? The secret is in the philosophy and practices outlined in the book Happy by Deren Brown. In this video, I will explain exactly what Deren advocates to become a genuinely happy person. In this part of the book squad, we're going to be reviewing Happy by Deren Brown. I'm first going to discuss the book's central ideas, the importance of gratefulness, and finally discuss how the book changed me. The dichotomy of control. The core idea brought about in Happy is that some things are inside of our control and some things are not. This is one of the pinnacles of the ancient Greek philosophy of Stoicism, which Deren brings up countless times throughout the book. If we think about what is in our control and what isn't, we have only two things over which we have 100% control: our reactions to our thoughts and our own actions. Everything else is ultimately out of our control. The Stoics believe that in order to achieve clarity over life, we need to focus mainly on these two things. Most of the stress that we feel comes from worrying about things outside of this control zone. The Stoics bypass this by using something called the Stoic fork. The Stoic fork is an imaginary line that you split down the middle of your vision. Everything on the right side of the line is inside your control, while everything on the left is outside of it. Every single time you come across an idea or request, you divide it into either the left or the right side of the line. This does not mean that we do not try and affect things outside of our control. On the contrary, Stoics believe that we can try to influence things outside of our control, but always realize that it doesn't guarantee it's going to end up how we want them. In other words, feel free to do what you think is right. Go out and spread the word on climate change. Fight against child labor. Try to get that promotion at work. The problem comes when you let the outcome of these things influence your tranquility. It is not in your control if your efforts will lead to some change. All you can do is try your best to pursue the things that you want and hope for the best. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most prominent Stoics and last great emperor of Rome, sums this point up marvelously. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. But how do we come to terms with the fact that the world is an awful place? Crime is everywhere, climate change is only getting worse, and new problems arise every single day. Terrible things are indeed happening in the world every single day. For example, child hunger is still prominent in many parts of the world, and we're in the midst of one of the worst extinction events of Earth's history. Yes, these things are awful, but what would the world be like without this? Do you want a place in which everything is perfect? A world in which no problems exist and every day is absolute bliss? Deren makes the point that a world without problems would be pretty dull. The fact is that the problems with the world are what give it meaning. How can we appreciate the good times in life if there's no bad times to contrast them? How can we love someone for their excellent qualities if they have no bad ones? The issues with the world are what give it beauty. Are the problems with the world bad? Yes. Should we sit there and do nothing about them? No. What we need to realize, however, is that the world is fine the way it is. We can try and change it by making it even more fine, by influencing things outside of our control, but realize that doing so doesn't guarantee any outcome. It is our perceptions, our beliefs of what the world should be, rather than what it is, that make us unhappy in the first place. Deren outlines one practice that makes us appreciate what the world does have and leads us to happier lives. One of the most significant ways to live a more positive life is simply practicing gratefulness every day. Most people make the mistake of giving happiness to their future selves rather than themselves in the present. They tell themselves that they'll only be happy once they receive this thing or that thing. For example, I'll only be happy once I have $1 million. I'll only be happy once I have gotten my PhD. The issue is that when you finally get the thing you were looking for, you just want more. $1 million turns into $2 million, turns into $3 million. The hunger for more never ends until you accept that you already have all that you need. Seneca, another prominent Stoic mentioned in the book, sums this point up perfectly. Learn to desire what you already have, and you will have all that you need. Everything that we need is easy to procure, while everything we desire is harder to obtain. It may seem simple, but just aligning these two things will make us happy with what we have now. One way to do this is through a concept known as premeditating adversity. Premeditating adversity is the act of reminding ourselves that the good things we have now will not always be in our lives. Someday, our best friend may move away, leaving our lives forever. It is unavoidable that through death or choice, our closest relationships will one day end. This understanding allows us to enjoy the good things in our lives even more, as we know they're not always going to be there. For example, I appreciate the times I have with my parents way more in my own life now that I'm in college. I see them much less frequently than I did before. The last 1% of my time with them will be after college, so I may as well enjoy every last bit of time that I have with them while I still can. Voluntary discomfort is another way to do this. The idea is that we put ourselves through difficult situations voluntarily to be more grateful for what we have right now. It also prepares us for being forced into those situations for more extended periods. For example, Seneca was known to live as a beggar for a couple of months. When he returned to regular society, he would be infinitely more grateful for simple pleasantries like warm water for a bath. It might seem extreme to go out and become a beggar, but in reality, we do things like this all the time. Think about what a camping trip is. We voluntarily deprive ourselves of the usual pleasantries of life, phone, internet, a good bed. Funnily enough, camping itself is rarely the best part of camping. Instead, it's returning home and getting to use all of the stuff that you didn't while camping that is the best part, that brings the greatest joy. This idea works in all areas of life. We never question how lucky we are to have phones with us until they're gone from our lives. Most people only think about when they'll be able to upgrade. However, they forget that many people in the world don't even have access to this marvelous device. Now that we know the book's main points, let's talk about how the book changed me to give you an idea of what transformation you could be looking at if you read it. Before reading Happy, my happiness was mainly outside of my control. My mood was largely controlled by the latest gossip on me by my friends, what the latest grade I got on my biology test was, or how much money I had in the bank. After reading the book, I discovered I could be happy with what I had now. I'm fortunate enough to live in a first world country and have never had the problem of worrying about where I'm going to get my next meal or next drink of water. There is no reason that I can't feel content with what I have right now. Funnily enough, this only makes me want to pursue my ambitions and goals even more. I want others to have the same level of comfort and freedom to pursue intellectual interests as I do. I understand that the two things I can control are my reactions to thoughts and actions. Everything else is up for debate. This isn't disheartening, but rather freeing. I fully embrace the idea that I only have two things that I have to worry about now. By adopting this philosophy and practice into your life, you can become the genuinely happy person you have always wanted to be. Be sure to check out my video book summary on how to use dopamine to stay energized and happy. It gives actionable tips on how you can learn to stay happier more consistently throughout your life instead of going through constant mood shifts. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day, and bye-bye.